Yeah, we're off. Hi, guys.
This lighter will give you fire no matter what Mother Nature throws at you. This new incredible electric dual arc torch is the ultimate survival tool. You've never.
Hey, Diane. Good to see you. Look how they've taken the black out of the Palestinian flag because it's the colour of the four horsemen. So they've removed the black out of it. Check it out. Come on. Pop up. Hey, Bill. Good to see you, mate. Look, there's no black on them.
Hey, welcome everybody to Hope for Our Times Sunday night, 4 o'clock on the west coast of America.
Mine's been okay so far, Phil. It's only 11 o'clock in the morning here.
Is done, folks. I think it's game over for America, and I'm going to show you why here in just a minute. Hey, before we get going there, I want to welcome you wherever you're watching throughout the world. Thank you for joining us. It's just great. Everywhere we go, we get to meet people that watch Hope for Our Times. And you guys are such a blessing to us. Hey, tomorrow on Monday, I have Shay from Got Questions, founder of Got Questions, my special guest. Folks, it is first time ever on Hope for Our Times, and this is just fantastic to be able to have him on. You are going to be blown away. Join us on Monday, 2 o'clock Pacific time. Tuesday, John from Australia is going to be joining us because we're going to look at the unbelievable things that are happening in the land down under. And guess what? You got the digital ID going on and all these other things. Guess what's coming here to America and is about to be exported to the rest of the world. So hold on. So that's Tuesday. Wednesday, we have, listen, just this, it's really another first time ever that we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
Join us for the midweek. I'm just an unbelievable week coming up. I'm not going to tell you too much about it right now, but I'm excited. I believe that what we have coming.
Hey, Mars, good to see you, mate. Same bat channel.
The most important thing that I've ever done, and so looking forward to the whole week with you guys. And then let's get started right now because we're looking at the subject of America. I think it's game over for America. Let's just work through a few things. America, I titled it as America is Done. By the way, that's not a picture of America that you see there. That is Jerusalem.
Yeah, we can tell.
I think a little bit of color touch up, but it's a pretty cool looking picture there.
Oh, and that's the Garden of Gethsemane, I'm guessing.
Taken from the area of the Mount of Olives, just to the northern side of the Mount of Olives, looking down at Jerusalem. Not the north, but the northern end of the western side. Yeah, with that of the eastern side of the western side of the Mount of Olives. Just as you get the Mount of Olives here, Kidron Valley, Temple Mount, taken from over here looking at the Temple Mount. For all those of you who've been there.
Did you go fishing,
Still a little
Phil?
confused with my directions. All right, why do I think America's done? Why do I think it's game over? Let me show you. There's about a zillion things. We're going to go through these. This is a prophecy update, and that's why I'm doing this. Okay, let's get going. This first item, this was sent to me from one of our viewers in Canada. Thank you, Donna, from Canada. Trudeau again says nothing after another church suspiciously burns to the ground in Canada. I want you to imagine if that was a mosque. Wow, the whole world would be in uproar. Heads would roll. But on
100%.
Zip, we don't care. We want to eliminate the church from this planet. We know that's a global plan. All right, check out this next one. From the economic collapse, the entire
Thank you, Phil.
crumbling. Major red flags are popping up for banks, small businesses, and retailers. I brought this up earlier in the week. But friends, we are watching the economies in China. We're watching them here in America. We're watching them throughout the whole world.
Yeah, that made the
And
news
all of
here.
this is coming to a head. I believe it's going to ultimately come to the head in
Diane, that made the news here. That water park
6
shooting.
with the rider on the black horse. But all of these things are happening, right? Continuing, and that is, by the way, in America, you look at what's going on in the retail business, and just the economy in general, and the price of everything, inflation, what's going on with bank closures. Wow. All right, let's get going. Saudi Arabia, adding to it. Saudi Arabia ends petrodollar agreement. What it means for USD, US dollar, Bitcoin, and gold. John from New York sent in this. Thank you, John. This past week, the so-called petrodollar officially died. What does this mean to Americans? The petrodollar ending will affect everything from interest rates and inflation to solvency of the treasury market, and it can even affect whether the U.S. survives as a country. In short, U.S. dollar is dying, and that death just got kicked into overdrive. Now that Saudi
100%.
Arabia will accept many currencies for its oil, the world does not have to hold dollars. Get ready for hard times, because all these useless dollars will find their way back to America.
And there's no way to bring back the dollar once it's gone. With $36 trillion debt, you won't be able to bounce back from this.
Got a lot more to say about these things in the coming weeks. I believe we're going to be experiencing them more and more. But we add to this, right? As I mentioned, there's like a zillion things. I'm not going to get through all zillion. But we add to this Russia and the ships and going over to Cuba. We have that problem going on. But there's more. And I believe we look at UN troops being brought in as migrant refugees.
I couldn't, okay.
Borders of the United States. We have in America, we're arresting political opponents. Well, we're not, but guess who is? The Biden regime. We have, I believe, America's been given over to a debased mind, as Romans chapter 1 teaches. It's like the last stage before the total collapse of anything. You look at what's going on and the perversions that's taking place in schools. And by the way, there's even parents that are encouraging these things. Unbelievable. So a parent knows their child's going to be taught these perverted things, and the parent is going to be kept silent of them, but the parent sends their kid to that school anyways. Folks, where are we? When this is happening, Americans are willing to vote. American parents are willing to vote for school board people that are perverts. They're going to talk about chopping off their little boy's private parts to their little boy, not tell the parent, and they're willing to vote those people into power. Listen, you can fault the people who are in charge of the school board. This fault is lying with these parents who are complicit. We just want to turn a blind eye because the school has become a babysitter for them, so they can continue on with their life and just ignore everything, pretend it's okay. It's not okay. Everything is not okay. We've been given over to a reprobate mind. We've removed God from schools, from government, from all media, from churches. Churches have, as Paul wrote in 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1, been given over to doctrines of demons and deceiving spirits. That's churches. So why are we seeing all of these things?
Good
What's
question.
happened to the world, and I would say especially what is happening to America? I can tell you right now what's happening. It is spiritual, but let me put it into the words of Jesus. In Matthew chapter 12, Jesus was very clear. He said, a kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. And what was he talking about? He's talking about a demonic activity. Read it for yourself. Matthew chapter 12. A kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. A couple of verses later, he said, the thief knows that the strong man has to be bound or he can't take the treasure, right? Can't take the house. So what's happened to America? We have been very divided. Again, just start looking at everything. And the strong man is being bound with every single one of these things that are taking place. The school boards, the complicit parents, the judges that are corrupt. We see what's going on here.
Wow, I love that term, the complicit parents. Brilliant term.
In Washington with the administration on both the right and left. It's like another rope to bind the strong man with every single one of these decisions that are being made. God removed from schools. I can't have the 10 Commandments in all these places. I praise God for the few places in the United States that they're saying, no, we're sticking up with these things. You look at that, you look at people saying we want women's rights. Well, what about the baby that's inside the womb? Listen, we have given ourselves over to the worship of Molech and sacrificing babies. And you look at Pride Month, and what happens? There's only a few of you guys out there. People who watch these kind of programs and the few churches that are out there that have strong pastors that will even talk about these things. The rest of the pastors given over to Dr. Demons keep their mouths shut. They don't want to say anything. We don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to upset her. We're to send your kid to the government-sponsored school and have them cut off Johnny's thing. Right? I mean, this is the kind of stuff we got going on here in America. God help us. But I believe we've been given over to a reprobate mind. All right. So what else do we have? The article you just saw a minute ago. I'm going to pull it back up here with the Kremlin. Look at this. Kremlin says Russia and Iran are continuing to work on a cooperation pact. Wow.
Hey, Talia,
So
good
we
to see
know
you.
as we get closer and closer to the time of the end, Ezekiel chapter 38, what's going to happen? We know that Russia and Iran are going to be aligning with each other. We know that as that happens, or also Turkey's going to eventually be part of this alliance, and they're going to come against Israel. Sudan's going to be with them coming up from the south. We know these different dynamics are going to take place. And folks, to see an article like that, what do we have? Kremlin says Russia and Iran are continuing to work the cooperation pact as the plan is coming forward. Ezekiel chapter 38 will be fulfilled. Right. Add to this, America has turned from God and has also turned against Israel. So look at this. Pointed this out to you this last week. This regarding the ceasefire demand from this past week. Gaza, from the UN Security Council adopts U.S. resolution for immediate, full, and complete ceasefire. All right. So some of you are out there saying, all right, but we need a ceasefire. We need a ceasefire. I want you to keep in mind, on October 7th, there was a ceasefire. Who broke the ceasefire? Not Israel. Who broke it? Hamas. Hamas doesn't keep ceasefires. Hamas has broken every ceasefire that there ever was, or every ceasefire that Israel entered into was broken by the other side, the terrorist group. So people say we need another. No, what they want is just control, and the United States is complicit in all of this.
Wow.
Look at this. I go, this is such a joke. Here's what Hamas wants in this ceasefire, and again, it's the U.S. is saying, hey, we need to do the ceasefire. Let's join with the UN. So what does Hamas want? Look at this. Day one, full Israeli withdrawal from major populated area.
Henry's a lifesaver for sole traders, making sure your taxes are sorted without lifting a ginger.
Areas. Day three, withdrawal from Philadelphia corridor, allowing for free flow weapons from Egypt. Dismantling of Israeli facilities.
Diane, them sort of preachers, they make us look really bad.
That's Reem. 32, not 33, live hostages. Hostage release stops if first condition not complete within 1 week. Check it out. So next one. Do this. No Israeli soldiers in Gaza allowed to remain at all by the end of phase one. U.S., Russia, Turkey, China guarantee the above. Isn't that interesting? Hamas terrorists released in order of when they were arrested. And note this is A.J. Edelman's comment. This guarantees the most hardened and worst terrorists released first, ones with many life sentences. So, and then let's go to the next one. Israel agrees to full end, the END of the war permanently at the end of phase 1. No IDF troops in Gaza at this time. Day 22. All rearrested terrorists from the Gilad Shalit deal, which released the 10-7 planners in the first place. By the way, that is a fact, Jack, are to be released by this date. That's just insane. Improved conditions of detained terrorists. Israel cannot deny any requests on which prisoners are released. So what they're saying is, okay, we'll work on a hostage release deal if you release all of the terrorists, that the evil, wicked terrorists that are held in Israeli jails. You release all of them back to us. You guys get out of Gaza. You say you're never going to come in here again. The U.S. supports this. The UN supports this. Russia supports this. Everybody gets behind it. In other words, to strong arm Israel, we have a corridor to make sure weapons still come in here. We can still build all of our tunnels, and we will destroy Israel. That's what they're saying with the ceasefire. What do you think the U.S. is saying? I think it's a really good idea. Francis Gill White, I was in an interview the other day with him and John Howler, and Francis Gill White is not a believer in Jesus Christ. He has some very interesting things to say and very informative. He comes from the secular viewpoint, not a biblical viewpoint. We didn't get into the biblical viewpoint. Tried to a couple times, but maybe in the future. But with him, but he still brought up some very interesting observations of what's going on with Israel and also what's going on with America. And we're going to walk through these things. And let me tell you, some of these things are about ready to blow your mind. So I say, get ready to have your mind blown. He writes this in a recent article he titled, "Are the U.S. bosses managing the next Holocaust?" Look at that. Think of that. That's what he wrote. Francis Gill White, "Are the U.S. bosses managing the next Holocaust?" Why did he say that? Well, as I mentioned, we're going to work through this. Remember, as I said in the very beginning, I believe America is done. It's game over for America. I think in Genesis chapter 12, verse 3, where God said, in fact, let me just read that passage. I'll start in verse 1 and think about what it says in context, all right? Verse 1, the Lord said to Abram, before he changed his name to Abraham, "Get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house to a land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing." So God calls him out. I'm going to make you a great nation. I'm going to give you this land. By the way, the land that Israel occupies right now is nowhere near the amount.
Yeah, he sort of admitted it, but he didn't admit to going all the way, which is sort of a half-pie apology. It's not really a legit apology.
The land that God has given Israel. They will eventually have all that land. All right. That God blesses, that God made the covenant with Abraham about. Verse 3, I will bless those who bless you, says God. I will curse you, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. All right, there's so many different things that are going on here. And one of the areas I don't often focus on, I'm going to right now, because it's going to make a lot of sense. We see the problems that America has. I will bless those who bless thee. I will curse those who curse thee. There's a lot of people out there right now, when you quote that verse and you're talking about Israel, they will mock you. They will laugh at you. They'll come on your comments. They'll ridicule you. They'll say you're a liar. They'll spew out all of their anti-Semitic.
Hey, Wyatt, good to see you.
Right on down the list. Do everything they can to beat you down and to humiliate you. But this is what God says. And know this, when you quote what God says, are they mocking you or are they mocking God? They're mocking God. They're using you, but they're mocking God, and they're mocking God's word. And you want to know what else? There will be the time is going to come when they're going to have to answer for that. Okay. Now it's been said, as Francis Gill White points out, that there's a claim that Hamas was created by Israel. He said this, the U.S. intelligence is behind that rumor, and U.S. intelligence is conducting anti-Israel psychological warfare. So you start looking at things. If you start looking at comments, you go, why is there so much anti-Semitism? What is really going on with the United States and Israel? And then you start following the days of Hitler, and you find out after World War II, Operation Paperclip, and you have all these Nazis that were brought over here
Yep.
into America, and then you have them. We begin NASA with these Nazi criminals. You also find out they're part of the CIA. You also find out they're in various parts of government. Going back to the end of World War II, and you start to go, well, this is really weird. Well, it's not going to be well. It's going to be even weirder than you think when you start seeing the facts. So check this out. Here's some interesting facts. Okay, remember this. Let's go back memory lane. 1993, Oslo Peace Accords. Remember this with President Clinton, Bill Clinton, and there he is, Yasser Arafat, and you look at this and you start thinking, okay, so you have the Oslo Peace Accords. There it is. President Clinton says, okay, here's what's going to happen now. Israel and the Palestinians are going to get along great. And the PLO, right? Where did the PLO come from? Get to that in a minute. So, but not so fast. Yasser Arafat turned down every single thing that they were offered. Every single thing. Basically, the Jews won't have hardly any land, and we'll do this whole peace accord, and everything's going to move forward. And the prime minister is ready to give up everything. All right. So here's what's interesting. I want you to look at this map of Israel, and this map shows the UN nations partition of 1947. Okay, now check it out. The orange is the Jewish part of Israel. After 1967, what happens? Well, Israel takes back pretty much all of the yellow part that you see. Israel takes it all. And over there in the left-hand side, you see the area that's up against the Mediterranean. That is the area of Gaza. It was in 2005 that Israel removes themselves from Gaza, when at that time, Gaza was a great place to live. Then it descended into a hellhole when Hamas takes over and so forth. So what it is today. By the way, keep this in mind. It is Egypt doesn't even want the Palestinians coming into their borders. So Egypt has built a border wall to keep the Palestinians out of there. Jordan doesn't want them. Nobody wants them. Why? Because they're violent. Okay, back to the map. Okay, so with the map, so you see the left part up against the Mediterranean is Gaza. Right in the middle, you see the big yellow part. That is Judea and Samaria. But of course, the UN calls that the West Bank. And so, and then up at the top, you have the Golan Heights all the way up to Lebanon. And even over on the right, you have some of the Golan Heights too, at the top of the map of where Israel is. Okay, now with all of that, all Israel has is that orange part. You have the Negev, which is the bottom part south of Beersheba. You look where Jerusalem is, right in the middle. That was all given to the Arabs. All the Muslims, they had it all, right? So you look at this and go, okay, this is what the UN says you guys get to have. You Jews, you basically get nothing. Israel was good with that. Now remember that those borders are absolutely indefensible. However, God miraculously intervened in 1967 when Israel's attacked in 1948. Let me get that straight. And then attacked again in 1967. Israel won both of those wars. So the parts that you just saw that were yellow on the map are now known as occupied territory by the U.S. government, most of the U.S. government, I should say, the UN, much of the world. They say that's occupied territory. It is not occupied territory. It's just absolutely insane. But nevertheless, let's keep going from here, all right? But those borders, apart from the miraculous hand of God, were absolutely indefensible. You enter into all of these things that we're thinking of. You enter into where we are right now. Why is it that the U.S. is saying they want a ceasefire? They're spinning it like, no, we want to make sure all the hostages get out, and too many people have died. Therefore, no, they know part of a ceasefire deal is going to be let all these terrorists back out. The U.S. is continuing to give billions of dollars away. Look what they've given to Iran. Look what they still give to these terror organizations, the PLO. What are they doing? giving money to them, right? They say, we're blessing Israel, but we're giving you guys all this money here. Give you and give you. Now let's go and fight. I believe they want a war. It's what the U.S. wants. The Biden administration meets with President of Iran, Raisi, and then his helicopter crash.
Okay, it is only 2 hours old, guys.
Just, I don't think that's a coincidence. Again, I'll bless those who bless thee, I'll curse those who curse thee. If God took out President Raisi, what is going to happen to America? I believe all of America is going down. Okay, there's a lot more to say here, a whole lot more as I connect all these dots. Okay, you ready? Let's keep going. You know what? You excuse me just 1 second. I got to get a drink of water.
When it comes to video creation, every detail matters. So go to Artlist and start creating without limits.
Come on, Australia. Let's go all in on something.
For insurance that protects and rewards, search AIA.
All right. So check this out. Let me tell you, if you think it's kind of weird, this is wild. Watch how all of this really starts to connect from this point. Okay. So I'm going to show you this other picture. It's a picture of the Hajj, Amin al-Husseini. Check him out. Here he is with these are Muslim troops, Nazi troops. Here's another couple more pictures. Here's one with one of the Nazi leaders, and then I'll show you this other picture. See, now this is with Hitler. All right. Now, as we go through the rest of this, don't have a lot left here, but as we go through the rest of this, I want you to keep in mind every picture I've shown you so far. The Oslo Peace Accords with Clinton, right? And yeah, there you go, that picture. We have the map of Israel, indefensible borders, 1947. You have the war 1948, 1967. But
Wow.
indefensible borders. Israel's in the orange. Why do they want to go back to that? Because they're indefensible borders. And then the other pictures I just showed you with Amin al-Husseini. Okay, now check this out because there's a crazy pattern here. Neville Chamberlain, many of you remember him. He goes to negotiate with Hitler, supposedly. He comes back with peace paper, peace in our time, peace in our time. Well, it turns out, and we're being kept in the dark about this, the whole Western world is being, pretty much the whole world's kept in the dark about this. It appears from evidence that Neville Chamberlain was actually a Nazi, what do you call him? Not just supporter, sympathizer, lover, whatever he was. He was an anti-Semite. His family owned the majority of the press in England at the time. And just think of that like today. Who owns the press? Whoever owns the press gets to decide what the narrative is going to be. So he's willing, it appears, to be painted as a Neville Chamberlain, as an idiot, as a moron. That's what, but actually it sounds like he was brilliant, but he was just a Nazi sympathizer. Well, he's smart, but a Nazi sympathizer and an evil man. And even in his own publications, family's own publications, they had glowing reports about how wonderful Hitler was. Henry Ford was part of it. And it appears what it was now, if you start looking at the things, to buy time for Hitler when he came back and said peace in our time. He wasn't fooled. He was willing to be the fall guy and look like a fool to buy time for Hitler because Hitler had a plan. And this plan involves this Muslim guy I just showed you. Okay, now with that, all that going on, let's work through this a little bit more. The founder of the Arab Palestinian movement, which would become known as Al Fatah, would also eventually become known as the PLO. We're going to get to that in a minute. The Hajj Amin al-Husseini, Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, played the leading role in the German Nazi final solution. Francis Gill White notes that Hitler made Husseini a top Nazi official with his own budget and bureaucracy, and he became important.
Phil, I don't know how to put it up on the TV, but I'll show the guys through the tablet. This is Phil's trip on the beach, on the river today. Beautiful area. Look at that. Looks like a good day, Phil.
He became important in one, the Nazi propaganda directed at Muslims, also as a recruiter and trainer of entire divisions for Heinrich Himmler's SS, made up of Bosnian and Albanian Muslims. Remember seeing the picture there where he's walking through the Nazi troops? That picture right there, these are Muslims that he's walking through this way. Very fascinating. Okay. And also as co-administrator in partnership with, get this, Adolf Eichmann, of
Yeah,
the
it does look good,
industrialized
doesn't
death
it?
camp system that murdered the European Jews. The German Nazis had all the dignitaries out to receive him, including Adolf Hitler himself, who sat down, get this, with Husseini immediately to seal important agreements with him, get this, among which was their joint commitment to work together to exterminate Jews living in British Mandate Palestine. Wait a minute. Okay, so Hitler and this Grand Mufti, he brings the Grand Mufti into to meet him, right, with his Nazi leaders and to train troops and so forth on exterminating the Jews. Huh. And then he works with him in joint commitment to exterminate the Jews. Guess where? In British Mandate Palestine. Whoa. So he's planted there officially in Palestine, supported, he lived there, worked with Hitler, but Hitler comes along now to support him in Palestine, right? So all this anti-Jew stuff that's going on over in Israel, it goes way back. Well, we can trace it all the way back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But it goes way back. And even in our history, we have these facts. Interesting. It continues. The Nazis were very excited about Husseini. They were building alliances with Arab Muslim bosses everywhere and had already sent Husseini weapons for, get this, the Nazi sent him, this Muslim guy, weapons for his fourth terrorist attack against the Jews of British Mandate Palestine, the so-called Arab Revolt of 1936 to 1939. The Nazis gave him weapons for the revolt against the Jews. What does this have to do with Oslo? We're going to get to that, right? The Hajj created the Al-Fatah movement, which was, as I mentioned, right, which was his terror organization against the Jews. It absorbed the name PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization.
You can't beat your family, can you, Phil? PLO spending time with your family, it's the best.
Displace al-Husseini. But al-Husseini was the stronger. He eliminates the problems of the PLO that were out to get him. And what does he do? He absorbs the name PLO. He took the name PLO. So it goes from let me get this, the Arab Palestinian movement, the Al-Fatah, to PLO. It exists as PLO today. It's also believed that, what's his name, Yasser Arafat, was related to this al-Husseini guy, and possibly even the guy that's in there now. I'm drawing blanks on what his name is right now. But
the Quran's very big on flat Earth. You're right, Bas.
You look at all of this regarding, and I mentioned Oslo, regarding Oslo, 1993, with Clinton, Dr. Gil White states emphatically, get this, that U.S. bosses knew exactly what they were doing. He's talking about he's talking about in the Oslo Peace Accord, and quite deliberately inserted those hell-bent on murdering all the Israeli Jews into the Jewish state and gave them strategic Israeli territory. You can't make this up, right? So this is what the peace accords are about, administration after administration. Remember the Bush administration, get out of Gaza. Condoleezza Rice, get out of Gaza. You Jews can't be there anymore. Listen, Israel, look what's happened to Gaza since Israel pulls out, right? Look where they are right now. You start looking at Judea and Samaria. What do you have right there in Israel Israel defeated 1948, 1967. That caused the powers in the West, it appears, from everything you look at, you go, it caused the powers in the West a little bit of a problem that Israel won. Things are starting to make sense. And I know this is really hard for anybody to believe this, but you start looking at things, you're going, wait a minute. I know, because I've been to Israel so many times, when you're in the West Bank areas of Judea and Samaria, like Bethlehem, you can't go to Nablus, you go to Shiloh, you go to these different areas, and you realize there's some very problem areas right there against the border, right there in Jerusalem. Jerusalem was basically, you've got the divisions right there in Jerusalem, West Bank and East, right? East and West. So you have that, and you look, you go, yeah. So all this peace talk, is it really about peace? We can say from Hamas and from Iran, no. So you start to wonder when the U.S. administration is shaking their finger at Iran, don't do that, and they give them $5 billion, starts to make sense. They're just doing the shaking their finger stuff because they just want to appear that they really care. When they say we've got a ceasefire, we want to make peace, we have a peace plan, it makes a lot more sense when you start to see Antichrist is going to come along with this peace plan. It starts to make a lot more sense when you start looking at everything and going, why is it that the Biden administration won't give ammunition to Israel? And they're going to go against Rafah. Why are they saying these different things? Why do they want to remove the current administration that's in Israel?
Boss, what church do you go to? Do you go to a denomination?
And plan it with their own. This whole thing starts to make sense. All right. Now, these are very wicked people, right? Very wicked people. Okay, check this out. We're almost done here. Promise, we're almost done. Go back to ancient Babylon and ancient Syria, ancient Israel, ancient Judah. So God uses Babylon to destroy Judah, right? To discipline Judah, right? Jeremiah wrote a lot about that, so the other prophets. God used Babylon. Babylon was wicked. Why did God use a wicked people to discipline his people? Why did God use wicked Assyria to discipline Israel, his people? God will use the wicked as an arm, as an instrument, a tool, a weapon to bring about what he wants to be. It doesn't mean he's blessing Babylon or Syria or blessing the wicked powers that be today. God is doing something, just like in the last days. He's going to raise up Babylon again to destroy them, right? So, but check this out. One example, Isaiah, let me see, Isaiah, I'll get there, chapter 10. Isaiah chapter 10, verse 5, right? Woe to Assyria, God says, the rod of my anger and the staff in whose hand is my indignation. So God says Assyria is the rod of my anger. Assyria is the staff of my indignation. Interesting. So God's saying, I'm going to use Assyria, but he also says, woe to them, because Assyria was totally wicked. And God judged Assyria, and God judged Babylon, and the great judging of Babylon is still coming, I believe, in the future, the final time. But you start to look at all of these things. And I want to caution you. If you're a person that says, and you're looking right now, watching what's going on in Israel, there's a lot of people that are rejoicing. And I don't even think, some of them don't even know what they're happy about. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Others know exactly what they are saying. They're evil. They're anti-Semitic. You got to be very careful, whichever side you're on. Because, check this out, it's in Psalm 137. 137, check this out. Again, we're almost done. Just hang on with me. And by the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down, we wept when we remembered Zion. We hung our harps upon the willows in the midst of it. For there, those who carried us away captive asked for us a song, and those who plundered us requested mirth, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion, right? So this talking about Israel.
Well, I never knew the song By the Rivers of Babylon was actual scripture. Wow.
The Jews being captive in Babylon, they're just heartbroken for Zion, heartbroken for Jerusalem. They say, how shall we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? Then this, verse you know, if I forget you, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget its skill. If I do not remember you, let my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth. If I do not exalt Jerusalem above my chief joy. So looking, going, don't let me forget Jerusalem, right? And God won't, because we know all those promises. But listen to this. Verse 7, this is the key. Remember, O Lord, against the sons of Edom, the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it to its very foundation. In other words, while Babylon was destroying Jerusalem, remember the sons of Edom, out of Jordan. They were looking down, saying, kill all the Jews, get rid of the Jews. They're anti-Semites celebrating that. Folks, God judged them. God judged Babylon. God judged Assyria. They were all wicked. He used them to discipline his people. Right now, God is moving Israel to a place of turning to him. I'm going to caution you. If you are a person that's sitting back and you stumbled across this channel and you thought, I don't like those Jews, I think we should see the end of Israel, you realize, wait a minute, God will, it's not going to be a good day for you.
Mm-hmm.
God judges those who are against his people. I'm just telling you, you can mock me, you can laugh at me, you can ridicule me, you can tell me you're just a Jew lover, you're a shill for Israel. Let's say whatever you want, but I know what God's word says. And I also showed you a little bit of the history of what's really going on between the West, what's going on with the Islamic movement that's there in Israel, what was going on with Hitler. Showed you a few of these different things. God still disciplines his people, Israel. Think of it like this. Let's say you're a dad, you have a son. You're going to discipline your child. That's your prerogative. You have that. What if you were spanking your child? What if you did that? And other people were watching. And they jumped in and they started beating your child. What would you do to them?
Smash
You
him.
would beat the you-know-what out of them.
Yeah, you bet you would.
What are they doing? This is my child. I'm doing this for a purpose. God's doing this for a purpose. I would caution you, don't jump on board. Israel is God's chosen people. If he's disciplining his people for whatever reason, ultimately he's moving them to a place of repentance. God is turning his attention from the Gentile world. He's turning to Israel, that all Israel would be saved. He's doing that. We are, I believe we're experiencing Romans chapter 11, a turning. Verse 25, a turning. And I watch people jump on board and say, discipline Israel, let them have it. I want to jump on board with you. And all the anti-Semitism, folks, I want to encourage you. Don't do it that way. God is going to judge every nation that comes against, and every people that comes against his people, Israel, to divide their land. I wouldn't go that way. Listen, I look at these things, and I want to do a prophecy update for you guys. Tonight, I have some other things coming for next Sunday. I'm really excited about. Tell you about those next week. We have a lot of exciting things that are coming up this week. Shay from Got Questions is tomorrow. John from Australia going to update us because digital ID stuff that's there and it's coming here. Wednesday, we have a special that I'd say is the most important thing I've ever done.
Okay, you're going to talk to someone from Australia, which is the most important thing you ever done. This will be good.
On this channel, and that's coming up this Wednesday for the midweek update at I think 1 o'clock Pacific time. We have midweek, and then I have an announcement for coming for next Sunday night too, and what's coming. But we live in exciting times. But listen, be on God's side in this. All right, make sure you're on God's side. There's a reason why all of the attention is going towards Israel. It's biblical, the spiritual dynamic.
And America, Gabe asked me why do I pay so much attention to America, and I got to explain to her there's so much going on there. That's why.
The So as we see all of these things taking place at the same time, playing all this different stuff, I could go into a lot more, but I'm not going to. We'll do that during the week until Jesus calls us home. In the meantime, until we are called home, let's you and I be about our Father's business. Let's do everything that we possibly can for the kingdom of Christ to tell other people about Jesus, because ultimately people need to be saved. God bless you guys. See you this week.
Okay, I really enjoyed that.
In a bygone era of marketing and advertising.
Good evening, everybody. We are so glad to be here with everybody tonight. I have Watchful, and our guest tonight is Craig Bong. We're excited to chat with everybody. How are you guys doing tonight, Watchful? Greg?
Doing really good.
Greg? Good. You guys good out there? Both of you guys are on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Weather today on the East Coast was actually warm. It did not feel like February.
Okay, this 4 months old, guys.
Yeah, it was actually a pretty nice day here on the West Coast as well.
Beautiful day. Yeah. It's the weather's been kind of nutty. Just 2 days ago, it was frigid and sleeting, and today my kids wanted to swim.
Yeah, my wife has been wanting to get out on the horse trails and in the parks lately, which it's hard for me to approve now after having Amy on our show last night. I'm like, I was just talking last night, and these federal parks is where they abduct a lot of people. Are you sure you want to go there for a walk?
Yeah. That was an interesting conversation last night with Amy. Craig, are you familiar with Amy Roper?
No.
Oh, you would like her. She's got a very fascinating topics, and just an all around a beautiful person with a great person.
Yeah, Talia, I'm going to play that one with DeVal when I do a copyright one, because DeVal copyrights. So does Craig Bong, I think, but the two witnesses don't. He's going to be talking about King Charles as well.
Personality, and she's just very pleasant. The Holy Spirit is just overflowing out of her. We're going to try to have her back on.
Yeah, she has a podcast called Eyes on the Right, and she covers topics from a biblical perspective. So things like, what's going on in the Catholic Church with MK Ultra and Freemasons and all kinds of fun topics like that.
Yeah, she had some topics that it was right on our list of stuff to do, and she covered a third of the topics we've been waiting to do, so it was perfect having her on. So, what do you guys think about the journalist? I'm trying to avoid saying his name, but anyways, Tucker flew out to Russia. They're waiting to air that. It's like the mainstream media and the administration on pins and needles. They have been bashing him all day on mainstream media. Craig, you got any input on that?
Well, I think it's great, so I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, me neither. I can't wait to hear it. I'm excited. I mean, he basically went over there in defiance of the entire United States government, and now I can imagine, we should work on those T-shirts that we talked about.
Oh yeah.
Tucker didn't Epstein himself.
Oh yeah. They've been relentless about him on mainstream media. They're making him out to seem like he is a traitor of the country, and they're organizing protests now to not let him back in the country.
Talia, these guys prove it about King Charles. I'm completely on board with it. I think they're completely right.
Just I don't get it. What's the problem with getting? He's a journalist, so he interviews. What's wrong with getting the other side of the aisle's perspective on things, which I think is really the problem, because they've been controlling the narrative on this. So there's going to be not just one cat, but several cats get let out of the bag.
Yeah.
You know, it's the thing is this is that public opinion matters on the topics that he is discussing, because there's an enormous amount of funds, which is our tax dollars, that are going, you know, over there in support of what appears to be, in their eyes, a legitimate cause. Though it does, you know, I have a deep feeling that there's another side of this story that they do not want exposed, because there was a lot of pushback. So they're going to try to spin it the best they can to make it seem uncredible, but I don't think there's any way they'll be able to contain it. It just, you know, their credibility has been totally lost pretty much on the entire world stage, except for, you know, their zombies that are pre-programmed on that side. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let Craig run with it for a second, because he is always on the know and has researched King Charles, Prince Charles, for a long time. He's been following the details of his journey from the very beginning, because it goes back into the 80s, maybe even earlier than that, with everything with, you know, the climate change initiative and his dealings with the WEF and what they got coming. So, Craig, I'll just let you go ahead and just give us an update on things on your research.
Well, I've been researching since 2005. I became interested in 1992 when I worked at a Masonic temple in Scranton, Pennsylvania. So, and I was a dishwasher, and that's kind of where it all started. But I didn't know what avenue to take until later, when I went to California and I ran across.
So is he saying the Freemasons basically know that Charles is the Antichrist? That's interesting.
Stuff that said, hey, this is very interesting, and this kind of reminds me of who the Antichrist is, or could be down the road. So I started researching the royal family at that point, and the Order of the Garter, and Freemasonry lingo, and everything that goes with that. And I've written basically 30 reasons why King Charles is the person that we should look at for being the coming Antichrist. So he is not the Antichrist now until he sets up his abomination of desolation. But he fulfills all of the signs to date that suggest that he is it. And then we've had the diagnosis that he has cancer, and it doesn't appear to be too big of a deal. He's expected to recover, and at the same time, he's supposed to strengthen here in the early 2024. He's supposed to strengthen the UAE consensus that was a start of a 7-year sprint that happened December 12th of 2023, and that's supposed to happen here early 2024. It's called the Terra Carta Accelerator, and we'll see when that takes place. So, you want some of the reasons why he is coming Antichrist?
Sure, we can chat about it. I remember your story about being a dishwasher at a Mason Lodge, if I remember that correctly, which is how that kind of got you spurred on this topic.
Yep, 1992 is the Scranton. It's Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So I was just working as a dishwasher.
Yeah. Well, we'd love to hear all the pieces of the puzzle that you've put together on why there's really no other alternative than him.
So there's basically approximately 30 prophecies. I'm not going to run through it, or actually there's more. There's like 35, but number one is that he arises during the generation that sees Israel reborn in a day. In 1948, Israel was reborn in one day, May 14th, and November 14th, 1948, Prince Charles of Wales was born. And that's Ezekiel 36, verse 24, Matthew 24, 32 through 34, 2 Thessalonians 2:4. So those are the passages of scripture. The second prophecy is the Antichrist is we know from scripture he's a royal prince within the boundaries of the ancient Roman Empire. And we know from looking at the ancient Roman Empire that extended up into Great Britain, and Great Britain was known as the land out of the sea. In Revelation, I believe it was Revelation 13 and 17, those two chapters combined, and we see that the beast comes from out of the sea. Number 3, the Antichrist is associated with the people of the prince that shall come and destroy the city of the sanctuary. So Titus actually ruled in Germany and also his father, but they ruled in Germany and Great Britain. So prior to Jerusalem being destroyed. The fourth one is the Antichrist is called the man. So that's just common sense. We know he's a man, and his name Charles means man or manly. Prophecy number 5, the name of Antichrist should count up to 666, and the ancient gematria, and his name is Sheets. Charles means Wales in Hebrew. And with the numeric values added to that, you can come. It's depending on how you spell it, you can come up with 666. So prophecy number Daniel 9:27 associates the Antichrist with specific Roman emperors, and Revelation 17:9 through 13. That states there are 7 kings, 5 have fallen or 5 have descended. One is, and the one who is to come is also an 8th king. So it says there are 7 kings. One is, so the other 7 are not. So the other 7 are dead. So if you go to the Encyclopedia of the Holy Roman Empire, you'll find that there's 7 King Charles, and King Charles III would be, if the Holy Roman Empire is revived, the 8th in succession. So and he's descendant of King Charles V of the Germanic line.
Huh.
The little horn of Daniel 7 is the final Antichrist who sets up behind the scenes to be great, or one having prestige among the others. That's what the little horn represents. The reference to that of the little horn is in ancient time always connected to that of the royal prince, and on his coat of arms we see the little horn. The Antichrist must fulfill the expectations of the Jews for their long-awaited Messiah. King Charles has been circumcised by a Jewish rabbi, and he's highly respected among the Jews. Number 10 is he deceives the Jews, so who are returned to the land, and establishes the state of Israel into a deceitful covenant with their neighbors who seek their destruction. So we see that being played out right now. That King Charles is playing the sides of watching he wants to bring peace between the state of Palestine, and bring peace to the Middle East between Israel and Palestine. So he's working behind the scenes on that. The Telegraph has put out a pretty good documentary on that, what's leading up to current events. The deceptive nature of Antichrist is revealed to the Jews in the middle of the tribulation. So that's Daniel 8:11, 9:27, 11:31, etc. And King Charles descends from a strong ties to the Germany's Third Reich. So we know from history that that there's a good chance he'll turn on the nation of Israel. That's a few of them. That the Antichrist is symbolized by a red dragon, a lion, leopard, bear hybrid beast, and we see that on his coat of arms. And it says I Chaldean. So if it from left to right, it reads I, the Black Prince, serve the red dragon. So
yeah,
and that red dragon connected with a chain to the white horse with the unicorn and the eyes of a man and the great mouth speaking. So he speaks pompous words. And it's interesting the hoofs of horse are goat's hooves, not horse hooves.
Huh.
So that's very interesting detail.
Have you been able to find in any recent research if King Charles has anything to do with the attack that occurred in October of 2023?
No.
Just wondering if there's any connection there yet.
It's said that their bloodline actually is connected to Prophet Muhammad.
Yes, and also King David. He connects a bloodline all the way to King David. I don't believe it's true, but that's their connection. It's on Ancestry.com, and that he has the right to the throne of David, and that's why he was crowned on that chair at his court on May 6th, and it's called the Stone of Stone, and they believe that's the same stone that King Solomon and King David were both crowned upon.
Wow.
Wow.
I saw that video Janie Duvall did on the coronation, and there appeared to be a dark figure that walked through the
I
back
remember
of
that.
it. Do you remember that, Craig?
That's the moment I turned the TV off. I missed it for a few minutes.
Oh, no.
Later, so I know about it, and yeah, it's just like a Grim Reaper that walked past the back door. Unbelievable.
It was. For a second there, I thought it had to have been fake, because it literally, just like you said, it was
Looked
a
like
dark black outfit.
The Grim Reaper, the classic
The only
example.
thing that was missing was the sickle, but it crossed in the back for just a few seconds, and my jaw dropped. There's so many. Go ahead.
It reminded me of the people who were doing the sacrifice at the CERN ceremony. They were wearing similar hoods. Yeah.
For folks that haven't seen Charles's coat of arms, that is probably one of the most outstanding attributes to this theory. On the playback, I'll put it up on the screen, but you can Google this. It's available everywhere. But just about everything that's listed in Daniel and Revelation is on his coat of arms. I mean, it's pretty compelling. And like Craig said, he was born the same year. I think almost 6 months after the birth of Israel, he was born, right?
Yeah, 6 months to the day.
Wow.
6, wow.
Wow.
And then you got the image of you got the peace image. It means that he comes in peace, and it's the 3 ostrich feathers. So that same image was put into a bow, and with 17 different colors and 18 lines, and at the World Economic Forum in 2020, and it revealed him as the person behind the unveiler of the Great Reset, and it also tells you prophetically their prophetic way of putting it, that there's an 18th SDG coming, and that would be most likely concerning the peace deal between Israel and Palestine.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of people that are skeptical of what type of power he has, and I've tried to explain to folks that he has a lot more power than what folks understand. Could you elaborate on that?
He leads the world's largest business alliance called the Sustainable Markets Initiative, and so he's the Green King behind all this movement of Agenda 2030. It's been going around since pretty strong since I believe 1969, but since 1992 he's really been in the forefront. At the conference of such as the Conference of the Parties, the Rio Earth Summit in 1992 is where basically it all began. But people have been talking to it well before that.
Yeah, and it's the entire WEF organization. Don't they report to him, or am I wrong on that?
They would report to him. So yeah, yes, along with along with Klaus Schwab. So those are the 2 top cronies. Then you got Noah Harari, also, so he's their the ideas. He gives them the ideas basically. He's the idea.
He's a kook. He's a kook.
And you got Gates, the money man. So there's a few right there.
That's like it's the axis of evil with those guys right there.
Yeah, representing a large quantity of the money in the world, I think. Because doesn't he also control the bank that the Catholic Church has control over?
Who? King Charles?
King Charles? Yeah, doesn't he have access to the money in the Catholic bank as well?
I'm not sure.
I don't see why he would.
I thought he was a signatory.
Though he, out of all the nations, I believe it's 192. If I'm not, I could be wrong. Though a quarter of the world's nations fall under his reign in some way, right? Or
Yeah,
I believe he said
54. I believe it's 54 nations fall under his authority.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. So what's the chances that his son, could be who we're thinking also if something did happen to him? Because Israel has from what I understand, a unique relationship with William.
There's zero chance based on Revelation 17, 9 through 11, because it has to be a King Charles that fulfills the role of Antichrist. There is no 7 kings named William historically of the Holy Roman Empire.
Huh. So,
but William could be positioned as a king regent.
Wi-Fi's dropped out. Hang on. Okay, we're back.
Every day, billions of purchases are made, in-store and online. But for marketers,
But 1992 is where basically it all began. But people have been talking to it about it well before that.
Yeah, and it's the entire WEF organization. Don't they report to him, or am I wrong on that?
They would report to him. So yeah, yes, along with along with Klaus Schwab. So yeah. Those are the 2 top cronies. Then you got Noah Harari also. So he's their the ideas. He gives them the ideas basically. He's the idea.
He's a kook. He's a kook.
And you got Gates, the money man. So there's a few right there.
That's like it's the axis of evil with those guys right there.
Yeah, representing a large quantity of the money in the world, I think. Because doesn't he also control the bank that the Catholic Church has control over?
Who? King Charles?
King Charles? Yeah, doesn't he have access to the money in the Catholic bank as well?
I'm not sure.
I thought he was a signatory.
Though he, out of all the nations, I believe it's 192. If I'm not, I could be wrong. Though a quarter of the world's nations fall under his reign in some way, right? Or
yeah, I believe he said 54. I believe it's 54 nations fall under his authority.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. So, what's the chances that his son, could be who we're thinking also if something did happen to him? Because Israel has from what I understand, a unique relationship with William.
there's zero chance based on Revelation 17:9-11, because it has to be a King Charles that fulfills the role of Antichrist. There is no 7 kings named William historically of the Holy Roman Empire.
Huh. So,
But William could be as a positioned as a king regent, and while King Charles is busy about doing something else, or he's incapacitated for a time.
Huh. And Charles is he the top Mason or just a Mason?
He is the top Mason of the. It's called the Order of the Garter. Mm-hmm. It's the blue belt that's on his coat of arms that reveals he's the head honcho. He also has seven heads and seven crowns upon his coat of arms as well, just like the Bible says that the beast is 7 heads and 7 crowns.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. And he got the heir apparent sign too. I believe there's several heir apparent signs. So the red dragon is heir apparent with the white horse, and then you got the lion's whelp on top. And you get the heir apparent, and that signifies that he's ruler of over Israel. So because it reveals that he is like the passage in the Bible where it says it has to do with the king of Judah.
Wow, if that's true, Vars, that was freaky, wasn't it?
In the lion's whelp, and so that you got the symbolism. You have the symbolism of the harp, which is a Scottish harp, but it also resembles David's harp. And you have the 11th lion rising up over 3 other lions and striking them down, and there's a remainder of 7 lions that are not under direct control of the 11th lion. So very interesting, all the symbolism that's in the coat of arms.
It is. That was the main thing that got me. And I remember, I think the first thing that really grabbed my attention a few years ago was the Tim Cohen episode with the Commonwealth Games, when they brought out that giant Moloch bull. It was, I couldn't believe that they were actually having a live show with that type of presentation, and why more folks were not talking about that.
And you have the tower, called it the Tower of Babel. I about fell off my chair. It's like there's a Birmingham Tower of Babel. I was like, my goodness.
Oh, it was something else. And a lot of folks
they want to unite the whole world together. And it's like, good grief. You got the presentation of Nimrod right in front of us.
It is. Guys, if you haven't seen is it 2022? The Commonwealth Games were?
Yeah, the end of July 2022.
Guys, if you haven't seen the opening ceremony of the 2022 Commonwealth Games, it will leave your jaw just dropped. It's I don't know why the entire world was not up in arms, but it just is what it is, because there's so much that happens now that it's almost hard to keep up with.
That's true.
You were telling us about the Terra Carta. Can you go in a little detail about that and the significance of what that means?
The Terra Carta is a mandate for the next decade. It began in 2021, and it's a mandate for. It basically brings. It takes the Magna Carta and twists it so that the rights are given to the planet and for harmony, so that the planet has more rights than we do as human individuals. And then per year, beginning in the early 2024, there's supposed to be 10 principles added per year, 5 on water use and 5 on land use, which you just Google Agenda 21, and they'll show you from 1992 what the plan is, and it's water control and land control. And so this begins supposedly by early 2024, and it's called the Terra Carta Accelerator, and King Charles presents it through his Sustainable Markets Initiative via the Pollination Group, unbelievable term right there, and White and Case Law Firm is writing up the articles for that. and that will be that basically a mandate for how his companies in his sustainable markets initiative must go forward for 2024, and then 10 mandates per year, or 10 principles per year added to that for the next 7 years. So it begins supposedly early 2024. The next update is slated for February 12th approximately. So based on current events, I can't give you an absolute guarantee on that, but based on analyzing his website, usually he posts every 3 to 4 weeks.
What type of impact do you think initially that will have on society?
It's total and absolute control. So it's into 2030. So that's what this whole thing is about, is Agenda 2030, and King Charles is behind the whole thing. There's a book written about a decade ago, a little over a decade ago, by Joan Vion, and it's called Global Straitjacket, and it reveals the whole plan by the UN and who's behind it. It's King Charles.
Wow.
So do you think King Charles is the beast who's given authority to persecute the saints for 42 months? And when do you think that starts, if you do?
It would start at least 3.5 years down the road. So in the middle, after the abomination of desolation is set up.
What do you think the abomination of desolation is?
Hypothetically, at least 3.5 years from our discussion here.
Okay.
So and things could prolong for another year, and it could be 4.5 years.
Which means we've just started tribulation, which I agree with.
Or maybe it's 5.5 years, but I'm looking at the Tarot Card Accelerator as a possibility of being in the confirmation of the covenant.
Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
So,
but it has to also include in state of Israel. So Israel's a key player in all of this, and it has to include some sort of peace agreement between and a promise to both Palestinians and the state of Israel. So there's that in play, and it's called there's a 7-year deal that was signed March of last year. It's called the UK-Israel bilateral agreement. It's a 7-year agreement signed between the UK and the state of Israel.
Oh, really? They've already signed that?
They've already signed that last March. Now, whether that's so they strengthen that deal or they strengthen another deal, that's remains to be seen. So that gives a promise to the state of Israel that the UK will give them protection.
Huh.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Google that. UK Israel 7-year bilateral agreement.
Wow.
Do you think that's the agreement with Minnie, the peace agreement with Minnie that's talked about?
I think it's connected, but I don't know how it's connected. It could be the UAE consensus, which is also a 7-year deal. I don't believe it's the Laudato Si, which is also a 7-year deal. That was 2 years ago. But we have 2 covenants that are in play right now that could be the 7-year deal, and the UAE consensus is waiting to be strengthened by the SMI.
Wow.
I wonder how that fits in with our timeline that we've talked about. So I've been working based on eclipses in the heavens, and this upcoming eclipse in April 8th, it takes place in Pisces, which is the 2 fish that have the chain that's restraining Cetus, the dragon. And we're speculating that might be when the restrainer is removed, and very likely when the woman that's talked about in Revelation 12 gives birth to the man-child that's caught up to heaven. And when the woman flees into the wilderness to be nourished for 42 months, we're speculating that might be when the 2 witnesses. We're not claiming to be the 2 witnesses. We just want to be the channel covering their work. We're speculating that might be when the 2 witnesses receive their power and authority to prophesy for 1,260 days, either around that time. And that's based on looking at the festivals, because there's a festival on the Jewish calendar called the Festival of First Fruits that starts on April 28th of this year, 2024. And if you count 1,260 days from that festival, it lands on the Day of Atonement in 2027, which is October 10th, 2027. So based on, you know, the signs that are in the heavens, we're thinking that we might be in or around about that time frame to where we could very well see the two witnesses receive power and authority. And we're speculating that the two witnesses will probably be groups of people, like maybe Smyrna and Philadelphia, based on Revelation 11.
Nah, that's completely wrong. They're not going to be a peoples. They're going to be two individual people.
For when it talks about the two witnesses are the two olive trees and the two candlesticks, because we know that Revelation defines candlesticks as
okay, well, God bless. Good night.
So we're kind of just we're tossing around on different ideas on the timeline and what can happen, and that was one of the things that we were wondering is that this going to be the start of the same 42-month period of time of persecution when the two witnesses receive their power and authority.
Origin Home puts energy in your hands and cleaner energy solutions at your fingertips with solar and battery options to electric cars, smart charging, and more. Origin Home connects you to cleaner products today. Head to the Origin Home Hub.
Alexa, dim lamp to 20%.
It's possible. I believe the whole calendar is all screwed up based on
you and me both. I'm trying to understand the calendar. I gave up.
23 verse 39 tells you the time of year for the day of it for Feast of Tabernacles. I believe that's what it's Feast of Tabernacles, and it's supposed to be after all of the produce of the land has been harvested. So I think the whole thing is all screwed up. But I don't know by how much. I don't know if it's by theory it's 3 months. Maybe it's more, and I just don't know. And I work in farmland and around farms, and I go, man, there's no way this thing is correct. It's like this thing's way off. And I ask the farmers, I go, do you think the Hebrew calendar is correct? They go, no, it's way off. And then so I have letters from the state of Israel, and they claim the agriculture department of the state of Israel knows their calendar is off, but they don't know by how much.
Right.
It's called the Hillel II calendar, and it was established apparently in 359 AD, and that's the calendar that they use today. And it was so the whole thing's screwed up. But we can probably agree that the new month begins on the new moon, whatever timeline that is. I don't know you guys, but so that's a general consensus that the new moon is the new month.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question because I've heard this question 100 times over the years. The Antichrist is I'm not sure if this is the correct wording, but doesn't like women. I think I've heard your answer on this before, and is that a literal statement, or does it mean something else?
That's well, it's one verse, and I'm just going to summarize the verse. It states that he forsakes the faith of his forefathers or his fathers, and then that pertaining to a woman, and that refers back to the faith of his forefathers, and so it's he forsakes the faith of his fathers, and that pertaining to a woman singular, and it's that faith pertaining to a woman. So it has nothing to do with the Antichrist being homosexual.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
But he does support homosexuality, and it's called the SDGs, and it's throughout all the sustainable development. So I have no problem with somebody saying the Antichrist will support homosexuality, because that's true. That's part of the Agenda 2030 information that's in there. Hey, can I just set my dog up really quick?
Oh yeah. No, you're fine. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that question. I've heard that question so many times over the last year that, hey, Charles can't be the Antichrist because he's not supposed to have any regards for women. So that was the explanation I was looking for. That's
Daniel 11. I think that's in Daniel.
Thank you for answering that, because that's been one of the biggest objectives that I've heard over time, is that he's not supposed to, he's not supposed to have regard for women, and that clarifies that. Especially,
the subject has to do with one's faith, and then King Charles at his coronation involved 6 different faiths in his coronation. So he made sure he had all the major faiths included in his coronation, except for the true Christians. He doesn't like those.
Yeah, isn't that ironic? Yeah, there was a Islamic imam there. There was a rabbi. I think there was even a Hindu priest
there was
as well.
Hindu priest, and then you had the Anglican Church as well, and then they had 2 others. I don't remember who they were. Oh, you had the Muslim, Islam. So he made sure he included Islam. So he's the king of all faiths, and you have Pope Francis who wants to include all faiths, and then you have the Abrahamic family house, which pictures that in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah. So the people are supposed to adore the Antichrist, and so another objection that I hear is that he's too old and no one likes him. How does that fit into the narrative?
Good question.
Daniel says he's despicable. He's not well liked, and the honor of kingship shall have not been given to him. So that means people despise their king. That they don't give him the honor that he is technically worthy of his majesty.
Oh,
so people take a passage where it says they're forced to worship. Actually, is the worship to the Antichrist is forced upon by the false prophet, and they say, oh, the Antichrist has to be well liked, and it's like, no, the Bible says he's despicable. That means he's not well liked, and he's not given any honor of his majesty. So
wow.
It's actually the total opposite of what everybody believes, and I think it's a fault of the preachers behind the pulpit that have told the storyline for centuries, and it's just an old storyline that needs to say, hey, that's really not what the Bible's saying.
Wow.
The worship of the Antichrist is forced. They take that mark, but it also says that when that 7th head of his is revived, which is political, that'd be what I believe it to be the Holy Roman Empire revived, and King Charles VIII. Then people all wonder and follow after the beast, and that happens in the last 42 months of his reign.
Wow, you covered the 2 main objections that I hear over the years. Everybody is convinced that he will be loved and adored by everybody, and that he's supposed to have no regard for women. So you answering both of those, that is really it's like the nail in the coffin, because that was the 2 biggest reasons people always pushed back. I had no idea that in Daniel it said that he is despicable.
Yep. Wow. And in Revelation 6:2, it's the opening of the seals, and it's past tense that he had been given a bow and had been given a crown. And so the bow was given to Prince Charles in January of 2020. It's right at the World Economic Forum. You'll see the 3 ostrich feathers above his head, which is the Great Reset reveal.
Wow, he was literally given a bow.
And that was the bow. There's 66 images behind him at that speech, and 1 in color. So there's 65 images in white, and then then you have the image, one image in color. In every single bow has the numeric value of 666.
He's wow.
He's right there when he's doing his speech. I about fell off the chair. It's like he's telling the whole world he's 666.
Yeah, he has
6 lines in each bow that's right behind him.
Yeah, he's got a ring that has that on it too, I think.
Yes, he has a ring that has it on it too. I have the coin that has the same imagery.
Yeah, there was I can't remember what it was called.
It means it comes in peace. So the
Right.
meaning of that is it comes in peace.
I can't remember what it's called, but there was a statue of him. I forget what the name of the statue was, but
Savior of the world.
Essentially in just a garment, standing on top of something. But it was very relevant. But I can't remember what exactly that was.
That's a statue that's supposed to be
the Savior of the world
in a Brazilian town. It's him in a loincloth stepping on all the people. And,
yeah,
they're worshiping him as their savior. So it's savior of the world is actually
I was right
of that image.
Wow. Yeah. On the replay on this, I'll take a picture of that and put it back up. I think Tim Cohen had speculated that actual statue could be part of the desolation.
Something like it could definitely be part of the abomination of desolation. I think it'll be like something digital or what's it called when you can zoom yourself over to some other place. And Prince Charles of Wales has done that, where he beamed himself to Abu Dhabi several years ago.
Wow.
So it's yeah.
Wow.
He spoke in Abu Dhabi, but he wasn't there in person. But you could see him there in person.
Huh.
A hologram.
What's the chances it was a clone?
Or a clone?
Oh yeah, they're talking about clones last night.
It's what's the hologram technology?
Yeah.
So he's used that in the past.
Really? Huh. So what is his connection with the Pope? Because I hear a lot of people always say, no, it's going to be the Pope. But my thoughts is the Pope.
Okay, what's his answer going to be? This will be interesting.
Is probably the false prophet. There's some significance there, isn't there?
There is. In fact, the Laudato Si is a 7-year, 7-sector covenant that started 2 years ago, and King Charles is behind that for presenting that to the Pope. And I had documents for that. It's all in Russian, but it's in my files somewhere, so I can't talk too much about it. But that was so that's very well documented, but it's all in Russian. So.
So these initiatives that they want to put forth, how are they going to force that on other nations that don't want to be a part of that? Because essentially the way it's supposed to unfold according to Bible prophecy is it's supposed to be a one world government. And how are they going to get everybody to sign up for these climate change initiatives?
Through the private sector, through the great merchants of the earth that we see in Revelation. And when they see the destruction, of Mystery Babylon, they all mourn over Mystery Babylon. But it's the merchants of the earth. That's how they're going to get control. So it's the private sector, the corporations of the world.
Sounds like what they've been doing with COVID, shutting down businesses.
Oh yeah.
Huh. So do you believe that Mystery Babylon is a country, or is it the corporate body that you were referencing?
I believe Mystery Babylon specifically is Rome, but it's greater than that. It includes Washington D.C., New York, London, and in the state of Israel as well.
You know, I could understand that too, because we often refer to how Rome became a religion, and now that religion, it dominates the entire world. And I could see, you know, from many different perspectives, where it would be a big deal when you say, you know, Mystery Babylon is fallen, because they've been around for so long.
Yeah, and the Pope is behind all the things that happen in the world. So he and actually you got King Charles too, that they're behind, that they have their secret meetings and their secret letters that go out throughout the whole world. And the Holy Roman Empire was set up as a Pope and a king, and eventually that's going to happen again, where you have the Pope leading and the king leading in the final 42 months. So it's a revival of that empire that the world will see. But when Mystery Babylon is huge, you know, it encompasses the whole world, but it's based out of Rome.
Yeah. Here's something you may not have heard yet. I don't know if you know who Suspicious Observers are, but we had Ben, who that's his channel. We had him on the show, and something that he's been, you know, sounding the alarm on is that the Earth is about to do a rotation, or a flip, if you will, to where the North Pole is going to rotate down to about the equator. And we're speculating that that's very likely what's going to cause the appearance of the stars to roll up like a scroll, because he said when you're looking at the stars, it'll look like 1/3 of the stars are moving out of their place. And also the magnetic shield will be so weak that we're also speculating that the satellites that are up there could very likely fall to the ground. And we know that a lot of these Starlink satellites weigh about 100 pounds, which is about a talent. And he said that this is going to happen very likely. Initially, when we talked to him, he said it was probably 1 to 2 decades away. But there's been solar activity in just the last couple of weeks that are accelerating that timeline. And what did he say? Christopher, what did he say that we're expecting?
And this is 4 months old. What about the sunspots we got a month ago? They'd freak out over that if they knew that was coming.
Now within 24 months or something like that. Not necessarily the flip, but some disaster cycles to really.
It's called a solar kill shot. And the late 1800s, there was the Carrington event that if there was, you know, mainstream electricity at that point, the whole world would have been in the dark. But they had just started putting up telephone poles and wires and whatnot. But these events happen every 100.
That's called the Carrington event.
To 200 years. There's a massive solar flare that bombards the atmosphere. The last one was the Carrington event in the late 1800s. But we're long overdue for one. And when this solar flare, this event happens, it melts every copper wire on the planet. And this isn't speculation, this is fact. He has done intense research into this. But it wasn't very noticeable prior because the world had not industrialized to the point where it was noticeable. But in the late 1800s, when the Carrington event happened, it still melted all the telephone wires, and they still had to restart from scratch. But imagine the impact now, what would happen if that event took place.
Yeah, we're speculating. So there's 2 timelines there. So within the next 24, I think he said he recently updated his timeline to the Carrington event to like 12 to 24 months. And we don't know how that's going to affect the flip too. We know that the government is aware of the flip, and it's one of the reasons why they're building so many bunkers. Like, you know, why the guy Zuckerberg is building this $250 million bunker in Hawaii, stuff like that, is because they know what's coming on the world and they want to get underground. But it's interesting because the timeline, we can see it lining up with the events that are occurring in the planet. Biblical end time events. So it's almost as if it's showing us that there's a window here of anywhere from 2 to 3 years for these things to happen, 2 to maybe even more than 3 years on the flip.
Yeah, I would say it's 3, well, minimum 3.5, because in the middle of tribulation, from that point, or 30 days thereafter, you have You have the days are.
Diane, I was going to do that now. You see TV with Taylor Swift. I was actually going to stream that, which I will do actually, not now, but I will do that.
Shortened to 16-hour days rather than 24-hour days, and so that speeds things up. And so something makes wobble back and forth like a drunkard, and so we know that happens at the middle of the tribulation. So there's something major, absolutely major, that happens right around the timing of the abomination of desolation.
Wow,
interesting. That speeds up everything in the heavens too. So you see the September sign that we see every year, that pushes out to December. So it's going to push out. So that sign would be the sign for the second coming. So it actually pushes everything out into a different season.
That totally lines up with what Ben has been saying, Michael.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, everything, all of these things are lining up. We're getting so close to this end time event that we're running out of guesses, and it's just like, these things are going to happen and we can see them.
Oh, the puzzle pieces are just, man, it's like the puzzle's almost complete.
Starting in November too, King Charles has 7 years, begins 7 years of business and philanthropy meetings at the COP event. So it runs from COP 29 to COP 35, and that begins this fall. So that 7 year, I don't call it a 7 year deal, but it's a 7 year business and philanthropy meetings where he tries to usher the world towards Agenda 2030, or by the end of 2030. So at the rate we're going, it's going to be 2031. So we know that can't get kicked down the roads somewhat if things continue to be pushed out before the tribulation begins.
I tell you what though, the sun's activity has been off the charts, Craig. We follow this pretty closely, and it is right now it's at a solar maximum. But almost every day, the Earth is dodging bullets. It's just been through pure luck that when these big solar flares have been happening, that the sun and the Earth were not positioned correctly, and it's just a matter of time before it's lined up. I'll send you a. Go ahead.
You probably noticed the increase in earthquakes as well. So the increase in intensity and frequency of the earthquakes it's off.
Now you see TV, they're mainly on Rumble now. They only stream YouTube once a week. But this one looks like a good one, Taylor Swift.
The charts.
I have the earthquake
happen. It's just like it's driving me bonkers. This thing's going off all the time.
Several thousand% increase in earthquakes in the last 48 months.
More than several thousand. It's gone up to it's almost 7,000% increase, isn't it?
Yeah, it's off the charts, and a good bit of it is tied to the solar activity. Yeah. Now, God never said why there would be an increase in earthquakes, just that there would be. Though, I'm going to link you, Craig, in a message so you can see this afterwards. It's a short video, maybe 5 or 10 minutes that Ben did, but you will love it because he not only is it biblical, it's packed with science and how everything lines up with what's going to happen. And it even explains that the sun turns dark for a period of time because of a shell forms around it. It's extremely interesting. It will fascinate you.
Yeah.
Harris Scarf's mid-season sale is on now. Save 50% off all cook sets by Tefal, Scan Pan and more, up to 60% off all air fryers and up to 60% off all coffee machines. Hurry, sale ends Monday 17th of June. Exclusions apply. Harris Scarf, great brands, great prices.
Partner with us to have global business consultants help you confidently face the future.
Let's see here. So there's a lot of folks that were. Go ahead.
So I'm curious, given everything that you've learned since 2005, and especially in these last years, are you so I'm assuming you believe in the rapture. When do you think that'll happen? Before, middle, or after?
Great question.
well, I believe there's more than one, but the rapture of the church, I believe, is 4. The mid-trib is the two witnesses, and that would happen I believe it to be in the summer months. And then at the very
Okay, that's interesting. The 2 witnesses will be a type of rapture. When they get taken up to heaven, do we go with them? That's interesting.
very end, you have the rapture, which is the Jesus comes back with the saints, but then he brings the souls of those who were martyred during the tribulations, and those are obviously resurrected. People can call it rapture or whatever they want, but there's a resurrection at the end of the tribulation as well.
That's the one I bank on.
That's interesting. It's always fascinating to hear the perspective on the rapture from different experts in this area, and that's not the first time that we've heard
Who's Ben?
The concept of a multiple rapture. And it does make sense because you have Elijah and Enoch, and there may be someone else that was technically raptured, wasn't there?
I thought historically, there's Enoch. Well, you have Philip. That wasn't a real rapture, but he was moved about from one place to another. But you have Enoch that was raptured, and Elijah that was raptured, and some people believe the 2 witnesses to be Enoch and Elijah. Other people believe it's Moses and Elijah. I don't pick one person or another. Whoever it is, and I just leave it at that. But and then you also have the 144,000 that appear to sing a song in the middle of the tribulation, and they're in heaven. So apparently they get raptured too. So obviously there's more than one resurrection. It's
trying to fix the glare, guys.
Three events that I separated out. And I don't know. I'm not super dogmatic on 144,000, but it's something I consider.
Yeah. This is something we've gone back and forth with over time. We've had ideas that it looks like the return of Christ and the rapture is all one event, and then we hear different things that really support a pre-trib, and what you're saying also is very well supported as well based off scripture, because in Revelations it talks about the 144,000 being up there as well, which would be, that does make sense as well. So
I look at it. A totally different perspective than a lot of believers. So I look at the appointed times. I don't know how much you know about the appointed times, but when Jesus first coming, he died on Passover. He was buried on the Feast of Unleavened Bread. He was resurrected at first fruits, and the Pentecost that was fulfilled. The next day on the appointed times is called Day of Trumpets, and so that happens in the 7th month. So on Day of Trumpets, you have a whole day of trumpets, and then the last trump is blown on the beginning of the 2nd day at the sighting of the new moon. And then you have 7 days after that on the calendar in the 7th month, and those 7 days are referred to as the time of Jacob's trouble. And then you have Day of Atonement at the very end. So it shows sequentially that you have the Day of Trumpets, you have the last trump, then you have time of Jacob's trouble, the 7 days that follow, and on the 10th day you have the second coming.
Yeah, I have several videos. Go ahead.
That's the view I take using the appointed times. And I learned that from I studied a couple of Jewish teachers on that, and then I didn't believe anything they said, so I had to go back farther. Their teachers were to verify. It's like I want the truth. I just don't want to get it from one guy, and then I found out you dig really deep, and it's like, hey, they're calling that those 7 days between the last trump and the Day of Atonement are called the time of Jacob's trouble. That proves a pre-trib rapture. It's like unbelievable. So I thought that was really interesting.
Oh,
yeah, I have several videos on my my other channel, I Am Watchful, where almost every year, that's such a high watch time, the Festival of Trumpets, looking for that last trumpet to be blown, and yet to be raptured. So with where we're at in the timeline and the way that things are set up in the world, I'm starting to wonder if that's still the case, given where we are, because it seems to us like the Great Tribulation is getting ready to start.
I don't believe Rosh Hashanah is the true day of trumpets. So I do believe the calendar is off, and it's going to fall further later in the year, and it looks like the tribulation could start in a week. So we'll see.
Right? I know. Yeah.
What's your perspective? Go ahead.
Before we move on, Drew Wagner has a super chat here. He wants to know if anyone, so he says, has God's Holy Spirit spoken to any of you before?
But define spoken. You mean like, have you audibly heard the voice of God? I've never audibly heard anything.
Yeah,
though I feel like my connection with Christ / the Holy Spirit is very strong. It almost all my decisions throughout the day are dictated by that.
Okay, Talia, good night.
Try
God bless.
to just simply love and treat people the way I would want to be treated. And if I'm, let's say hypothetically, not doing what I'm supposed to do, I get this really big urge or this feeling, hey, look, you're off track. You're on the wrong course. You need to deviate back. So I'm not sure if that explains or if I said that the best, but that's just me and where I'm at. Craig, have you ever had that audible voice?
Not an audible voice, but you have that that urge to go look up something. It's like,
yeah.
So I'll be on a tractor like all day long, and it's like this little voice in the back of my head saying, "Go look this up," and certain passages up in Scripture. And I can't wait to go home, open my Bible, and see what God has for me that day. So that's how He speaks to us. It's that little voice, and that we hear, that urging. It's the Spirit working in us. That's what it is. So I don't hear an audible voice, but it's that urge to go look something up in a certain passage or whatever, and that God has something for us to learn. And my mind's going all day long, and I'm always searching things. And
absolutely.
Every single day, I search the Sustainable Markets Initiative, the website, and on LinkedIn as well, because LinkedIn has more updates. And so I go there and look for stuff as well. But I'm researching things concerning the Antichrist, and I'll pray and say, hey, I need some help on such and such. And then it's that little voice in the background that say, hey, look here in Scripture, and there it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, it's just
for me too. That's exactly the same, and it's been that way my entire life. You know, I followed Jesus for as long as I can remember. My earliest memory is about 7 years old in a bathtub, because my mom makes an effort to get all of her kids born again. She's always taught us all to follow Jesus and taught us the Scripture, but I've never.
Damn it!
Receipts too hard to handle. End of financial year is better off on zero.
After watching this series, I hope Australians feel inspired to have conversations earlier with their loved ones about it.
What's that?
But go ahead. Well, my earliest memory is the same, 7 years old. And then the sirens every single day, and I counted up all my neighbors and figured that when those signs were coming for me, it's like I need to get saved.
Wow.
Yeah, I've never heard a voice per se, and I say this on my other channel a lot. I don't hear voices. I don't talk to angels, and I don't dream dreams. Although lately, after we had Joel on, I started putting lion's mane mushroom in my daily green tea shake, and I started dreaming after that the next day. My shrooms, yeah, but they're not spiritual dreams. They're just the weird stuff that you have when you're in REM sleep. I've never had those dreams before, so it kind of freaked me out. I woke up thinking my wife was 9 weeks pregnant. She was so mad at me.
I did dream dreams. That's why I started my Facebook group, is because of the dreams I dreamed. But it also it's because people were trying to motivate me to write a book, and so there's a combination there. But yeah, I dreamed dreams, and they came true.
Wow. Have you had anything recent? Because one of the folks that works with us in our mission, she's a dream interpreter, and it's always fascinating to hear her take on it. Have you had anything recent that you're kicking around an idea on?
The last dream I had was in probably early 2020. I mean, I'll tell you one. It's just I had a dream that this messenger came to me, and he was holding a set of scales and the timepiece. And so I went online. It was 3:00 in the morning, and he said the time is near. So I went online and actually bought the scale. Bought the scales, they're right to my left, and I bought the timepiece in my living room. It just reminds me that. So that was just one of my dreams. I had another dream that I was telling people that Jesus is coming soon, and I was teaching people that I grew up with in Bible college and family and people I work with, and they all left the auditorium, but there was people outside that all came in to listen to hear what I had to say, and that has actually come true. I've lost all my friends from Bible college.
Sure, that's why not?
And yet I have other people that are willing to listen to what I have to say.
Yeah, you're in good company, brother.
That dream actually came true. And I had another dream that Israel was under attack, and I remember the buses had the big mirrors on the side, and so I looked online to see where these buses originate from, and they originate from Israel. And it's like, good grief, Israel's going to get bombed, and Israel did get attacked on October 7th.
Yeah.
It's interesting
I've had dreams, and I don't call them prophetic dreams by any way, but it does motivate me to tell others. Keeps me motivated to tell others that Jesus is coming.
Yeah, I had one dream in college, and it was specific for me, and it was very clear that I wasn't to tell anybody about it. That's the only, and it was one of those visions that, like, I didn't know if I was awake or if I was asleep, but as soon as I woke up, as soon as I was out of whatever it was, I wrote it down so that I could remember it. And I've never had anything like that ever.
My first one is this messenger came to me, and he holds up a sign, 40 days. And he goes, do you understand the meaning of the dream? And I said, yes. And I woke up. So I woke, it was 3:00 in the morning once again. And I opened up the book of Jonah and read the whole book of Jonah after 3:00 in the morning and to try to understand the meaning of the dream. And that was in 2019. And remember that the vote that we had in November of 2019 for who to be president, and on the 40th day it was determined that the messenger told me that Trump goes the wrong direction. And on the 40th day, it was determined that Trump was not going to be the president of the United States.
Wow.
That one blew my mind. I actually wrote down the dreams, and I told one pastor friend, but I could not believe that one. But that's the dream where I started telling people about end times. That's the one that said it's time for me to start telling people. Before that, I would just tell people one-on-one wherever I go. But I didn't use. In 2018, I did one post online. It says the rapture's soon. That's it. And then 2019, it came in August, and I had that dream. It's been every single day since then, except for when I had COVID for forever. I had to take a break. But
did you say around 2020?
Yeah. August of 2019 is when I started. On the 9th of August, I remember the day. So the 9th of August is the day I had that dream.
We're finding a common correlation with late 2019, early 2020, where everybody has felt a shift. And what you're saying just kind of lines up with everything else that everybody has been saying. I felt the shift in early 2020, late 2019. And just like you said, I've had friends that I've known my whole life that are now just gone ice cold on me. I've had family members that want nothing to do with me because they think I'm a nut because of.
Was it a good sermon, Vars? He went for 2.5 hours. Was it a good sermon?
my beliefs in what's going on. Though I've built relationships with folks like our community that we have right here, where everybody is on the same page and they're driven and passionate about this topic as well. It's just fascinating how there's so much correlation with what you're saying and with Watchful and myself, how we feel. It's awesome.
Yeah.
In December of 2019, I was telling people there's a pandemic coming. So that was before there was ever a pandemic declared. But I read documents, UN documents I had, and they say, hey, they've been telling the world since 2010 that there's a pandemic coming. I didn't know we were going to see it that soon, but lo and behold, it came, and I was ready for it because I was telling people what not to do. Don't wear a mask. Don't take the thing.
Wow.
So I had people call me a prophet. How do you know this stuff? I go, it's all been written in 2010, so I just read an opera manual.
Wow.
Yeah, they've been planning this for a while. Kip, one of our guests on our show, and she's an integral part of our team, wanted to know, do you think the scroll that Daniel was told to seal up until the end times has been opened or is being opened?
Great question.
The scroll would be the book of Dan. I believe it would be the book of Daniel, and we're traveling to and fro through it, studying it and understanding it in our day. So yes, it means it's understood in our day.
But it wasn't back then.
As far as where we sit with the opening of the seals, what's your perspective on that?
I believe it would happen. Well, the first seal is obviously the Antichrist is unleashed upon the world, and that obviously hasn't happened yet. But we do, like I suggested earlier, we have seen. It states that two things must happen before that first seal, and the Antichrist is given a bow and a crown, and with that we've seen King Charles given a bow, and he's the only person in the world that's received a coronation. The coronation event that we saw in 2023 is the only one of its kind in the world today.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think they had anything to do with COVID?
Yes.
Really?
They pushed their agenda through. That was the beginning of their 10-year plan to push the Great Reset. So that was part of their plan, and it's to produce a biometric ID, and that's in the Rockefeller Foundation in 2010. So that hasn't happened. That's where they're headed with it. And if you Google ID 2020, they're telling you that there's a certification mark that everybody must take to prove their status. Really, down the road.
It's interesting. I ask you that question because my research it indicates that we're likely between seal number 3 and seal number 4, and that's based on the stars. So if you look at Revelation 4, when it talks about
which one is it that when the Euphrates dries up? Is that a trumpet, a seal, or a bowl?
The throne set in heaven.
I think it's a trumpet.
In 2020, or I think it was 2020 or 2021. I don't remember exactly when it was. I was led to the Aurora Borealis.
Stop it! You're making it.
That green rainbow, and that sent me on an adventure of looking at the Earth from the North Star Polaris. So when you look down at the Earth at the North Pole, it's surrounded by a green rainbow. And if you look in Stellarium, you can see 4 constellations that match the living creatures that are talked about in the book of Revelation in chapter 4. So you have Leo, the lion, you have Taurus, the bull, and you have Ophiuchus, which is the face of a man, and then you have Aquila, which is the flying eagle. We did a big, long, detailed video on this about the 7 seals. And what we found is that there were eclipses that were happening in those sections of the skies that were lining up with events that were happening on Earth. So in December 26, 2019, there was an eclipse that had happened underneath Aquila, and it happened above Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is the rider with the bow and the crown. And I thought it was interesting that you mentioned that it was in January that King Charles received a bow and a crown. I think that was when you said that that happened, right? In January 2019.
The crown was in May, and the bow was in January of 2020.
Yeah, and the reason I asked about COVID is because they had traced it back to starting in December of 2019. So it's interesting that there was an eclipse that happened underneath Aquila, which is one of the living creatures. And then it also happened in Sagittarius, which the eclipse happened as a crown in Sagittarius. And that also has a bow and a rider. So the speculation was maybe that's seal number 1. And then it continued. So if you look at the next eclipse that happened in Ophiuchus, which is another one of the living creatures, on December, I think it's 14th, 2020, is when the Electoral College declared Biden the winner of the US presidency. And that was the same day that he received operational control of Operation Warp Speed. It was also the same day that they delivered the first vaccine. So we're speculating that that's seal number 2. And then seal number 3, we're speculating there was an eclipse in Taurus, which happened on June 10th, 2021, which is when the United States and the United Kingdom renewed the New Atlantic Charter, which was originally written up in, I think it was 1948. And then what it is it's an agreement on 8 categories, basically uniting the 2 countries together. So, and then the 4th one, I don't know exactly, the eclipses aren't as clear as the first 3 lining up with events. So there's 2 that actually fit the pattern, because when you look at this, there's a pattern that's established with these eclipses and the living creatures. So since it eliminated 3 of them, that just leaves the last one, Leo.
Origin Home puts energy in your hands, giving you ways to find even more value, like the best Origin plan for your home. Plus savings when you bundle your energy and internet, letting you take charge of all your charges. Head to the Origin Home Hub.
Bolt surging, he's closing the gap. 2 meters, 1.5 meters.
That we don't know the date on, and there's 2 eclipses that actually fit that pattern. They both happened in October. One happened in 2022, and another one happened in 2023. And the one that happened in 2023 was 7 days after Hamas went into Israel. So it happened on October 14th, 2023. So I'm thinking that could fit the seal number 4 being open. So we could potentially be within seal number 4. And I know that the general understanding of the seals has been, the Antichrist and, riding on the right horse and war. But what it seems like they're marking, if these signs are actually marking the seals being opened, what it seems like they're marking is the start of the events. So, the pandemic going forth, conquering and to conquer, the rider on the red horse given authority to take peace from the earth. Joe Biden's done a really good job of doing that, which would indicate that the mighty sword that he was given, very likely the vaccine, because that was used to bring the world under control, to subdue the world, shut down shops, lots of shops. And then the one that's most confusing is seal number 3, because the expectation is inflation. But when you do a study of that scale that the rider on the black horse is holding, it's actually a yoke, which in our video, we actually show the correlation with why it's probably called a seal, because there's a piece of a scale that's similar to a yoke. But a yoke is basically used to combine the strength of 2 drought animals to balance their weight in order to pull something like a plow. Mm-hmm. So we're thinking that New Atlantic Charter is that yoke, the contract that combines the strength of 2 countries together, the United States and the United Kingdom. So, which is interesting, because that kind of puts us between seal number 3, maybe we're in seal number 4. And the reason I bring that up is because they seem to mark the beginning of events, not the fullness of them. So if we are indeed in seal number 4, if it was marked by, Hamas going into Israel to attack Israel, then that means that we're right on the precipice of death followed by hell, getting way worse.
I would say you're following the shadows of the four seals, and so and it started 3.5 years prior to what should unravel about now. So 3.5 years ago, we with the beginning of the pandemic and King Charles unveiling his plan for the world for the next 10. It's a 10-year plan. So we're with that 10-year plan beginning basically in 2021. We're what 3 years into it. So what we're seeing is the shadows of the four horsemen, and I have no problem with stating it's the shadows because we haven't King Charles hasn't been gone forth conquering into concrete yet, and now he's giving forth. Now he's got cancer and he's going to work behind the scenes for a bit longer. And we see inflation. We saw a pandemic, and so we're obviously seeing the shadows of this. So we know we're very close to that. But the seals are for 7 years, and we're only in the first 3 years of this 10-year plan.
Yeah.
So we're really close. I can't tell you if it starts next week or if it starts at the end of the year or next year. But I'm to be honest, I'm surprised it hasn't started yet.
Yeah. I've been on the fence about it. I'm not sure. There's a lot of evidence to support what he's saying. Though
I think you said it was the trumpet 6 bars.
My feeling, the feeling I get about it is unclear. So it lines up and makes a lot of sense based off of his research because he's a very data-driven person. Though it's difficult to tell. I think that there will be no mistake if they happen or when they happen. I take the Bible literally with a lot of stuff, and I know maybe that can be the wrong way to do it, but that's just how I look at it. So I take it literally. And
gee, that's heavy when you read it, isn't it, Bas?
2.5 witnesses. They're supposed to start. They're supposed to show up at the start of the tribulation period, whether that's 2 groups of people or 2 people, but they're supposed to be unkillable. And then they're killed at the halfway mark when the Antichrist or the little horn turns on Israel with that peace agreement. So there's so much information out there that it is difficult to really 100% agree with anything. But his data points, Watchful's data points, are probably the best that supports this stuff. Especially now that you add the additional confluence that Charles received the bow in early 2020. That's just another check mark on that box. So there could be, but like you said, he's supposed to, the first seal he's supposed to ride for and conquer. Is that what you said, Craig?
Yeah, he rides forth and goes forth conquering, and he right now he's working behind the scenes, so there's no conquering going on. Obviously, we've seen shadows of it though. We saw it at the Birmingham games, for example. We saw it at the opening of the World Economic Forum in 2020. So, but I have a graph it's a 10.5-year graph, so it shows where we're at right now, and then you go back 3.5 years in everything that's happened, and then what's expected in the next 3.5 years, and then the last 3.5 years. And so we're at that 3.5-year juncture somewhere, and things should start here any time to fulfill their plan by the end of 2030. And so if hypothetically, if it starts now, and you go 2,550 days, it puts you to January of 2031. So we're definitely still in a potential ballpark that things could begin now, and maybe maybe the whole calendar is so messed up that 30 AD wasn't the crucifixion, and it was 31 AD or 32 AD, because the calendars have been changed numerous times by especially by the Roman Catholic Church. So
Yeah. Yeah,
So
we've all given
we
up
don't know
on trying to figure out the calendar.
yeah, I understand the calendar, the Earth. So I've gone to the calendar of Earth, and so it's a 12 or 13 month calendar, and it's a lunar calendar, and but it presents two different seasons, summer and winter, but the whole thing is off about 3 months from what the calendar is that we see today, the Hebrew calendar. So maybe
Right.
it's more like the Chinese calendar. I don't know. So I look at all options, and as we pass them, I check them off the list. Like, well, not that one.
Hey,
Yeah.
let me thank Jason for the super chat. There's
Oh, wow.
been many
Thanks,
super
Jason.
chats, but Jason is a dear friend of mine. He is a extremely successful Bitcoin day trader. He runs a fantastic trading group, and he's got a channel here on YouTube, Jason Casper. So if anybody has ever been interested in learning how to trade, he is probably the best and the master to learn from, and he's got all sorts of techniques that he walks through. But I just wanted to give him a shout out because love you, man. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you guys. I knew I'd forget if I didn't say something. But yeah. So the two witnesses are, according to the book, they show at the start of the tribulation, and then at the midpoint, they're supposed to be killed by the Antichrist. So
Right.
That's one reason why it leads me to think that it could be two people instead of two groups, unless the Antichrist kills those two groups, which is very well possible.
Yeah. Yeah,
What's
I
your
go back
thought?
and forth.
It's
I'm not entirely sure.
I believe it's two people, and I would suggest Elijah is the one for sure, and the other one I just don't know. Well,
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care to debate who it is, but I would suggest probably Elijah is probably definitely one of them.
Yeah.
And then you have the 144,000. That's a group of people. So those are the witnesses that go throughout the world. Those are God's witnesses that replace the church.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing I've always leaned toward is it was two people. Just, the lampstands and the candlesticks is a great data point for it being groups. Though just that gut feeling I get is that there's going to be two that arise that are unkillable, that torture and, cause mayhem for.
So Clearly Me is one of the first apps ever to be tested for its effectiveness. We took the app and we asked young people to.
We don't know when they're going to show up, but I think the two fishes theory is a good is a possibility.
The what?
The two
The
fishes.
eclipse and
the eclipse in the in April. That's a good I would say a good possibility. It is something to consider.
Yeah.
I watched a video the other day that really left me really scratching my head. It was about how the Catholic Church had been searching for the two witnesses and monitoring.
Good night, Phil. God bless, mate.
Monitoring
That's
all
good news,
the
mate.
children that are born, and they say that that's a reason why so many hospitals are associated with it, like St. Jude and St. Mary's, and it was a very deep and dark video, but it made so much sense. Like they have been trying and waiting and trying to figure out who they will be. They've been monitoring the babies being born, and they speculate that 23andMe hack they were looking for something that could tell them more data points, because when that hack happened last year, they had primarily focused on a Jewish bloodline.
Interesting.
The Catholic Church believes that the tribulation is about ready to start too.
Huh.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting.
They gave
Well,
one of the warning for January 11th, and there's another warning for around February 10th, I believe. So I was like, well, they're following the same dates I'm following, and see what happens. I don't believe the Catholic Church to be truthful on anything, but at the same time, they're ran by Satan, so Satan knows. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we've been speculating that the reason why the invasion at the border has been allowed to persist is it's probably has to do with a Great Tribulation. That because it's not just families and children that are coming over; it's fighting age males that are coming over, and they've proven that they're violent. They're proven. Many of them have a history of violence, and it's all seems to be coming to a head here any day now.
It
But
really
it's starting
is.
to look pretty good.
And it's worldwide too. It's just not happening in the U.S. It's also in Europe.
That's right.
Same thing going on.
Yep.
And it's interesting that you said February 10th or 11th. They are suspecting, because the Super Bowl is that time period as well. There's been a lot of
and what's the other thing that goes around is that time of year is the I forget the name of it where they have their big parties like in Brazil and Italy.
Cinco de Mayo?
No,
it's in May.
It's in May. But these huge events that are beginning this weekend. The whole world's having a big party beginning around the Super Bowl time.
Wow.
Interesting.
I thought that was pretty interesting too.
Yeah, speaking of Brazil, last year there was a satanic parade. There was a satanic parade last year in Brazil. It was a huge event, and from my perspective, it looked like God's wrath had happened because there was a flash flood that completely wiped out the town and killed several people in this satanic parade. I'm not sure if you remember that, Greg.
That's that carnival.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so that begins. So that they're doing that again this weekend. It starts again. In
Shut
Brazil.
up.
Yeah.
No. That same carnival parade.
The same garbage. They're doing it again.
Whoa.
Wow.
Do you remember that flood? Do you remember the flood and what it did?
Yeah, I remember last year, and they do this every single year, and so but they're doing it again. They haven't learned their lesson.
Yeah, but this flood, it was not in the weather forecast. I mean, it was a flood of epic proportion. There was dozens and dozens, I think hundreds of people killed from that carnival with this flash flood.
Yep.
Wow, and they're doing it again.
Kind of reminds me of all those people that have dared God to strike them down if they're wrong and they get struck down. Like that one guy who the stage fell out from underneath him.
Yeah.
These people never learn. It feels like it feels like we're transitioning to the kingdoms of this world becoming the kingdoms of God and his Christ. And like it's interesting to see, it's like as they challenge him more, I almost wonder if the persecution isn't more towards the tares, you know what I mean? Like those who don't believe, who aren't written in the book of life, because you see this bad stuff happening to them, but you see, the believers by and large have been protected. Christopher was just saying that, like in the Bible Belt, you don't hear about a lot of this stuff where there's a good chunk of Christians.
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
Yeah, we knock on wood, we rarely ever see. It's pretty mundane when it comes to extreme weather or really anything abnormal. It's almost surreal to me because I see all this stuff happening on TV and the news. There's floods and famine and millions of locusts flocking to certain cities and just absolutely craziness happening all over. But it's interesting, just like Watchful was saying, that there will be tribulation, though it's clear in Revelation that the wrath does not happen to everybody. So it's fascinating.
Well, it does say
Go ahead.
it does say that the Great Tribulation is so bad that it's never been as bad on the earth, and it never will be. And if it wasn't shortened, that no flesh would survive. So that's why we pray for the pre-tribulation rapture.
Yeah.
So have you heard about the prayer that the Jews say in the UK every single Sabbath?
No.
So this is how they present the prayer on every Sabbath. Our sovereign Lord King Charles, our gracious Queen Camilla, Duke and Duchess of Cornwall and in Cambridge and all of the royal family.
Really?
That's how they open up their prayer in the synagogues in the UK.
Interesting.
Really?
Very interesting. Yeah, I have the prayer right here.
It sounds like blasphemy.
It's blasphemy. Is that they started out, he who gives salvation to kings and dominion to princes whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, may he bless. It's like that's total blasphemy. They're praising the wrong Lord.
Right.
They're claiming him to be the Messiah.
Yeah, they're claiming him to be their Messiah every single Sabbath.
Wow.
That's another nail in the coffin for the Antichrist.
Well, and you know what's interesting is the seven churches. The seven churches that are talked about in the book of Revelation, they were required to declare Caesar king and pay tribute once a year.
Have you seen the gold coins that get produced? You got King Charles, so that the dragon, and then it's King Charles, and now you have a new coin out that King Charles has sees the dragon and taking control of it, and he's riding the dragon. So that coin was it's like unbelievable what they.
The future of money is exchanging over 30 currencies at competitive rates.
Man, the two things that I was concerned about, you solidified both of my questions. The two objections were his association with affection for women and everybody not liking him. I did not know that everybody thought he was despicable. That is, no one likes him.
The honor of kingship shall not have been given him. So it never says that right in Daniel.
And the fact that the Jewish faith is literally praying to him as the Messiah every Sabbath.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Holy moly.
When I read that, another one of those moments I fell off the chair.
Wow.
Did that ever stop? That makes me wonder if that ever stopped, because I know that was a requirement in Asia when Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamum, Thyatira, all of those churches, that was a requirement of the churches too. Jews had a special exception. They actually had a register that they would keep because of what they believed in the God of Israel. There were certain Jews that had an exception to not declare Caesar their God. So I'm wondering if that practice has continued throughout the centuries.
Interesting. Wow. I didn't know that about that prayer. My head's sitting here spinning on that.
Wow. I don't want to repeat it, but that's how they open the prayer. I have the whole thing, but that's how they open it. So.
Wow.
Holy moly. Wasn't it during his coronation, if I remember correctly, there was something from Jesus's crown of thorns somewhere involved with his coronation, if I'm not mistaken.
There's a piece of the cross that was embedded in some of his paraphernalia. I don't remember where it was.
Yeah,
look it up. But anyways, there was a piece. They believe it's the cross of Jesus Christ, and so he bore the cross of Jesus Christ at his coronation.
Wow.
And then you also have his the terracotta icon and also the astrocarta icon, and the terracotta icon declares himself as is in control of all the planet and everything in the world, and the astrocarta puts him in charge, the overseer of everything in the universe.
Wow.
Wow.
So he's declaring himself to be the God of this world and the God of the universe.
Interesting.
What an ego.
Man, this has been a very educational interview. This is fascinating information. That there was those few items that had me on the fence about things, but there's no other option in my eyes.
Do you know of his involvement with Chrislam?
He accepts all faith. So he prefers he prefers Islam because of the geometry. I actually have his book. It's called Harmony, and it reveals his struggle, which in German we would refer that as Mein Kampf. And so he reveals his plan for mankind. That's his ultimate goal, and so he's revealed this several years ago in his book. And it's called Harmony. So I have that book, and it's all this geometric symbols in what you see in Islam. In fact, in the middle of the book, I open up the book, and it always goes to the same picture, and it's a ziggurat, like the Tower of Babel that spirals up into the heavens. So that's in the center of it.
Wow.
Yeah,
so he, just like the Pope, he wants all religions to come together in order to save the planet.
Interesting.
So you see Romans 1:25 being played out. They love they serve their what's created rather than the creator.
Yep.
Guys, I'm seeing comments that are like, we don't think Charles is the Antichrist. Guys, there's so many boxes that has to be checked in order for this to line up. And I can understand people's concerns, but before agreeing on your assumption, you really have to go down the list. The list is literally a mile long. There's no one on this planet that checks the boxes like this. I would love for me to be completely wrong on this, but the list is literally a mile long. And I bet even Craig has a list that's visual that he can send me that I can post that outlines everything about him, because there is so many things that have to be checked off. And the two things that I was concerned about, it had been crossed off my list. I think it's fascinating. Wow.
I
wonder. Go ahead.
There's approximately 35 prophecies that he has to fulfill to date. So obviously there's certain prophecies that have not been fulfilled. So I can't say that King Charles is the Antichrist, but we can say he fulfills the role of the coming Antichrist, and he check marks off this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. We've talked about he was given the bow, that was fulfilled. He's been given a crown, that was fulfilled. He's the only person in the world that has received a coronation. So and that's what we see in Revelation 6:2, that this individual is given a royal crown. Those are two. His coat of arms as Prince Charles of Wales, and he still holds that coat of arms, has the red dragon, and the red dragon serves with the rider of the white horse. He's a little horn is on that white horse. There's 7 heads and 7 crowns upon those heads on his coat of arms. And it says, "I, the Black Prince, serve the red dragon," right on his coat of arms. So
what are those crowns? Do you know what those crowns or the heads represent? The seven heads.
The 7 that are on his coat of arms.
Mm-hmm.
I've done research on some of them. I have not. So there's 5 hoop crowns and 2 crowns as prince. So there's a difference in the crowns. So 2 of them present himself as a prince, and then 5 hoop crowns present him as king. And he's already received 2 crowns. So he's received one from Scotland, and also 2 coronation events. The last coronation event was a lot smaller than the main event. And he should be given several more crowns later down the road. So it's not uncommon that the Holy Roman emperors prior to 1806 would receive multiple crowns in their tenure.
Yeah.
He comes from the same line as Titus who destroyed Jerusalem, and there's another symbol, but and then you have the head of a lion, body as a leopard, and feet oversized like a bear on the left side of his coat of arms.
Yeah.
So absolutely unbelievable.
It is. He was born the same year Israel was formed as a nation.
Mm-hmm.
And he says that's a big deal, and he's working to be the peace mediator between the state of Israel and Palestine.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that have to be checked. The little horn, the Antichrist, is said to control a quarter of the planet. He controls a quarter of the planet. Out of the 196 nations, 52 are under his reign.
54. Yeah.
Wow. Man, this has been a great interview. This is
he's been circumcised too to prove himself as a Jew.
Really?
So yeah.
Wow.
He traces his lineage to back to King David.
Yeah.
So
sure he does.
And you can go to ancestry.com, and he has his ancestry chart right there, and it shows that he has to sit in Jerusalem as their king. When he was crowned in May 2023, he was crowned as king of Israel.
Wow.
That's why they hid him behind that when he was crowned. They got the oil from the Mount of Olives to anoint his head with oil, and that was done behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So unbelievable. Just like Solomon was anointed with, and David was anointed. Were both anointed with oil. They did that. He wanted the same thing.
Yeah. I see comments. One person was like, Barack is him. Look, Barack has one check mark. There is a long list. And Craig, I'm sure you have something. At some point, I would love to see your list of check marks that essentially you and Tim Cohen has done an immense amount of research on this topic.
Right. 24 check marks, not including the coat of arms.
And the coat of arms is a dead ringer. If anybody has not seen his coat of arms,
10. The coat of arms is about 10 things, and then there's besides that, there's 24 other check marks that he fulfills.
Yeah, I understand that there's other folks that have that people name Trump and Obama and all sorts of stuff. You could probably correlate one or two items, but not everything that's described. And if you haven't seen his coat of arms, I'll post a picture of it on our Facebook page. It is
the seven crowns that are on his head, on his coat of arms, have the Iron Cross, which is worn by the Pope and also was worn by Adolf Hitler.
Wow.
What?
Yeah, the same Iron Cross that Adolf Hitler wore, and that Pope Francis.
Floods in Miami, fires in California, just everyday judgment.
This is worse.
I'm of the belief that there has been an Antichrist in every generation waiting in the wings. And I think Hitler was the previous generation's Antichrist.
That's reasonable. Bloody ads.
Upgrade your shave with Gillette Labs. The pivoting disc turns with your face for an unbeatably smooth finish. Gillette Labs, unbeatably smooth.
The duration of time that Hitler killed the Jews in the 40s was a 3.5 year period from the first Jew that died to the last Jew that died in the concentration camps. So this has been great. At some point, we'd love to have you back on if your schedule permits. Does anybody have any questions? Watchful, you have anything you want to ask him?
I was just wondering if the people who are disagreeing with King Charles being Antichrist, if it's some of them aren't along the same lines of what I think. I have a hard time. I like to use the words that are actually used in the scripture, and when you look at the word Antichrist, it's only used 4 times in 1st and 2nd John, and it's in reference to the spirit of Antichrist, and they have specific attributes: deny the Father and the Son, deny that Jesus came in the flesh, and deny that Jesus is the Messiah. So I'm wondering if that wasn't their argument, that while King Charles might be an Antichrist, I'm wondering if they're tripped up on the definition. Like, so is he the first beast with 7 heads? Is he the second beast with 2 horns? Is he the little horn? I mean, because there could be some overlap to where some of those are the same, but they're specific names given for a specific purpose with specific attributes: man of sin, son of perdition, specific attributes, stuff like that. So I'm wondering if that's not what some of their disagreement might be in line. But I've almost given up trying to convince people to stop using the official names in the Bible, because everybody uses the name Antichrist ambiguously for everything, for all of those. I try whenever possible to try and be specific, like, what are you referring to? Which attribute are you referring to when you're talking about a specific prophecy? But by and large, I understand what most people are referring to. So I don't know if that's what the people in the chat were referring to by saying he's not the Antichrist. Obviously, he has the spirit of Antichrist, but maybe they were wondering.
Right now, it's the spirit of Antichrist. Obviously, you have to have the abomination of desolation to happen for him to say he's the Antichrist, or the confirming of the covenant, which is planned for early of 2024, confirming if this is indeed the covenant, the UAE consensus, which started a 7-year sprint, signed and declared on December 12th of 2023. So, and that's via his Terra Carta Accelerator, which gives action to the UAE consensus.
Yeah.
So obviously that has not happened yet, and I don't know if it happens in a week or in a year, or I just don't know. But it's planned for now.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I think we're all in agreement that we're in the end times and stuff's getting real. We're close. The labor pains are almost dilated to full dilation.
Pope Francis is supposed to work as the banner for King Charles, and that's why he came with his 7-year 7-sector agreement, which started in 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
Wow.
Wow.
So now we're in the last 5 years of that plan, and King Charles' plan has not yet taken hold. So we just don't know yet, which is, it's called the Terra Carta through his Sustainable Markets Initiative.
Incredible.
Wow.
Well, I really enjoyed this, Craig. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk to us and allowing us to pick your brain. It means a lot to us. I know that you're very busy.
Very appreciative.
Yeah.
A little bit sick lately, but oh well.
But from the bottom of my heart, thank you for making the time to come on here. And I'm hoping in the future we can have you back on so we can pick your brain some more. We value your research and your opinion on these things. So it's a fascinating topic, and not only just because of the subject matter of who the little horn or son of perdition or the Antichrist is. There's so many other things and moving parts in regards to the tribulation. And I'd love to talk about the multiple rapture topic some more. I think that's fascinating as well.
Is there anything that you wanted to shout out or tell people how they can find you?
I'm on Facebook under Craig Bong, and then Rapture Watchers, all caps, and that's a group, and those are the two main ones. I'm also on other platforms, but those are the two I'm most active on.
Yeah. I'll post a link to his Facebook.
Okay, guys, this is over. See you tomorrow. I might do that Taylor Swift one, Di. I think you're the one who posted that link.
Book.
Okay, guys, God bless.
On our Facebook page. So for folks that want more information, I post a lot of stuff on our Facebook page. But our Facebook page is actually more active than our YouTube channel. So there's links in our description to our social media. But no, thank you so much for coming on.